This January, Disney Plus is the home to new stories, new journeys, and new beginnings, with Disney's national treasure Edge of History, as well as Star Wars Bad Batch Season 2 for the older kids in your family. Months have passed since the events on Kamino, and the Bad Batch continue their journey navigating the Empire after the fall of the Republic. I'm definitely looking forward to that new national treasure show for one of our Friday family movie nights to cuddle up on the couch with some popcorn. All these and more streaming this month only on Disney Plus. Hey friends, it's Mr. Jim and welcome back to Kid Short Stories. If this is your first time, welcome to the family. We are the podcast that turns your ideas into an amazing adventure every single day. You know, we couldn't even exist without imaginations from kids just like you. So if you have an idea for a story, I'd love to see it. Check down in the show notes below for how you can submit your own story idea, and maybe we'll turn it into an awesome adventure. And parents, if you're new to kids podcasting, I want to challenge you to listen to podcasting for 5 days in a row with your kids. It's going to increase their imagination, decrease screen time, and we're going to have a lot of fun along the way. Are you guys ready for today's adventure? Me too, let's go! Kitty was a cat who loved to eat cookies. Every morning, Kitty would climb down the stairs on the handrail and hop her way onto the kitchen counter toward her very own cookie jar. Wait, what? There's a cat that has its own cookie jar? What?
I wonder what kind of cookie I'll have today,
said Kitty as she knocked the top of the cookie jar. But today, no cookies greeted Kitty. No salmon sandies, no mackerel macaroons. The cookie jar was empty. Kitty refused to believe it. She stuck her fluffy face inside the cookie jar and meowed.
Hello, cookies, where are you?
But no cookies answered, not even a little crumb. Kitty couldn't believe her people had forgotten to stock her cookies.
Well then, I will just have to remind them,
Kitty huffed. She swished her tail back and forth as she climbed back to the banister toward the humans' rooms.
Meow.
Kitty bellowed down the hallway. She paused, waiting for them to heed her call, but no people came out from behind their doors.
Meow.
Kitty whined again. Surely those little humans, especially Ellie, would come running. After all, this was an emergency. A kitty catastrophe. This kitty needed her cookies. But no humans came. Not even a rustle was heard from behind the doors. Kitty swished her tail and turned, leaping onto the window ledge, and Kitty gasped. It was worse than she expected. Not only were the humans not answering their cry for cookies, they weren't even home. The driveway was empty, which meant they had taken their metal box somewhere. Oh, I think metal box. I think that means their car. And left her home alone and cookieless. Kitty could be sassy, but she was not a very wild cat. She liked her fluffy pillow bed and her fresh bowl of water, and the only mice she chased were made of fabric and stuffing. She shuddered at the thought of being out on her own, but since Kitty thought they had clearly abandoned her, she would have to become an independent, brave kitty.
I can make my own cookies then. I'll just go out, get the ingredients, and come home and bake my own.
She had seen the little human do it plenty of times. How hard could it be? So Kitty waltzed her confident kitty self back through the kitchen, past her empty cookie jar, full water bowl, and a bowl of crunchy kibble, and out the flap of the back door. toward her first day as a lone cat. Kitty had curled up in the kitchen while Ellie baked cookies enough to remember the ingredient list.
I need flour, eggs, and fish,
Kitty told herself as she pranced along the fence towards town. Though Kitty had listened to Ellie baking, she was actually sleeping. You know, cat naps. Cats take a lot of naps. So she wasn't sure exactly, what these ingredients really looked like. You know what I mean? Well, Kitty had entered town and came upon the florist's shop.
perfect, flour, just what I need,
Kitty said. This sounded correct to a cat who had never cooked before, so Kitty picked her favorite flour and continued on her hunt.
Flour, check. I'd find some eggs and fish.
Wait, flour? Like from a flour shop? I don't think that's the right kind of flour for making cookies. What do you think? Kitty crossed through the park and over to the pond.
I'm sure I can find a fish here,
she said. Kitty peered into the water and watched fish swish around below. Being an indoor cat, she didn't know the first thing about catching a fish.
Maybe I need to ask them?
Kitty batted at the water and yowled,
Hey, fishes, come here so I can turn you into cookies.
but the fish just swished further away. Kitty harumphed. She looked across the pond and saw, a farm stand and a farmer selling eggs. What luck!
Fine. I'll be back for you later, fishes.
Then she headed around the lake toward the farm stand. Farmer Fred's Farm Fresh Eggs, read the sign. Just what Kitty needed for her cookies. When the farmer was distracted, Kitty leapt onto the table and landed beside the carton of eggs. She certainly couldn't carry them all.
Well, I only need one. What if I just...
Kitty opened the carton and attempted to grab one egg. Unfortunately for Kitty, her claws and fuzzy paws were no match for a wobbly round egg. Kitty swatted the egg out of the carton and off onto the table and splat.
Whoops. Let me try that again.
Kitty said as she tried to dig her claws into the egg and cracked it. Sticky egg whites dribbled out and Kitty jumped, sending more eggs flying off the table onto the ground. Splat, splat, splat. Hey, shoo! Get down, cat! All of the splattering eggs did finally catch Farmer Fred's attention, and he rushed over, waving Kitty away. Kitty leapt off the back of the table and hissed at the farmer.
How rude,
Kitty exclaimed, swishing her tail. This was turning out to be much more of an adventure than she was used to, and Kitty was growing tired. It was time for a nap. She gave up on catching fish or collecting eggs and took one of her pretty pink flowers and headed home. By the time Kitty arrived back at the flap in the back door, it was growing dark. Kitty had no cookies and was feeling quite sad.
I'm starving.
Kitty meowed as she trudged past her bowls full of water and full of food.
I need my cookies,
she cried as she climbed onto the counter. Kitty was ready to whine and yowl and maybe knock her empty cookie jar onto the floor just to pass the time when she heard movement upstairs. Kitty sat down and swished her tail, listening extra closely. Ellie bounded into the room and saw Kitty on the counter. There you are, Kitty. Oh, what a pretty flower. Did you pick it for me? Ellie laughed and gave Kitty a pat. Here, I have something for you. Kitty watched as Ellie pulled the top of the cookie jar and reached inside. Kitty swished her tail, knowing it was empty, But then Ellie pulled out a deliciously fishy-smelling sardine snap cookie and placed it right in front of Kitty. I made these for you this afternoon, Ellie smiled. Kitty purred and gobbled it up. Then she meowed for more. Kitty the cat did not need to be a wild cat after all. She no longer only ate cookies for breakfast. No, now Kitty ate cookies for dinner too. The end. Great job, you listened all the way to the end, and you know what time it is. It's time for Kid Shout Outs. I want to say to Kingston and Kiera from Toronto, Canada, Felix from California, Ezra from Texas, Malcolm from Vancouver, BC, Carissa and Annalise from Tucson, Arizona, Claire from Prince Edward Island, and Dante from Minnesota. I'm so glad that you're all on the Kid Short Stories family. We could not have this much fun with imagination without you, my friends. Well, you have a super duper day, and I'll see you on our next adventure. Bye! This January, Disney Plus is the home to new stories, new journeys, and new beginnings, with Disney's National Treasure Edge of History, as well as Star Wars Bad Batch Season 2 for the older kids in your family. Months have passed since the events on Camino, and the Bad Batch continue their journey navigating the Empire after the fall of the Republic. I'm definitely looking forward to that new National Treasure show for one of our Friday family movie nights to cuddle up on the couch with some popcorn. All these and more streaming this month only on Disney Plus.